Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. If you love mountain biking, you are in the right place. Picture your last group ride. You had a great time. You're back at the parking lot. The stoke is high. You're talking trails, bike, progression, tech. Everyone's excited. We're talking bikes. You love bikes. We love bikes. Let's drop in. Sage, how are you?
Dude, I'm a little bummed out. I just read some news that one of my favorite companies, Stages Cycling, might be in trouble. So I want to get into a little bit about that. But first, I want to apologize, Dan. I want to apologize because I realized after 12 episodes, you always ask me how I'm doing, and I never ask you how you're doing. So how are you doing?
This? I think we should go back and re-record. Now that you mention it. And I'm gonna have to look at my gratitude journal to see how I was on each day. I'm always good, man. Life is beautiful. Life is great. And whatever kind of day I'm having, we're talking bikes now. So this is the highlight. This is exciting. This is fun. I appreciate you asking, but yes, I am doing quite well, and even better now that I'm on with my paisan and we're talking mountain bikes.
Yes.
I saw the news about Stages, and I know that you're a fan of them. There's all sorts of crazy mountain bike news coming out right now with companies that overextended during the pandemic and when the mountain bike craze really happened, and then overstocked and maybe just weren't really all that well run, I guess, because some of these companies seem to be okay. Some of them are way overstocked, and some of them are in big financial trouble. Some big names. We see Kona is like in serious trouble. I think Trek is in a little bit of trouble, and Trek's humongous.
They're huge.
Yeah. But we'll see what happens. But Stages filed for bankruptcy. They are done unless someone buys them.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like
what did they do?
Reports.
What did Stages do that you were a fan of?
Well, they are most known for their power meters, and I have two of them. I have one on my road bike and I have one on my mountain bike, and they are absolutely critical for me because I don't have an indoor trainer. So when I'm out on the road bike, like I absolutely rely on the power meter for that data. So this is a huge blow because if they do go out of business, then I won't be able to get parts for it anymore, and that's kind of a bummer. There are a bunch of
do you need parts now?
Every so often the battery door like comes off.
Okay.
And
so
then
there are things. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like a little rubber ring inside. I've destroyed that before.
I've read that they're very reliable. That they're really good units.
Yes, they are super reliable. Yeah, but yeah, I've heard conflicting reports about whether they're going to stay open or if they're just going to close the doors. I know that they work with Giant. Giant actually provides a lot of their parts for them. So there's a chance that maybe Giant will take over that or rebrand it somehow.
So the power meter that you use is in the crank arm. That's right. What Stages was really known for. That was their breakthrough, that they could put the power meter in the crank arm. Before that, you would have to get it like in the hub. Or maybe there was other systems. I'm not really an expert, but I know that Stages being able to put a power meter into a crank arm, so you would just essentially replace one crank arm with their crank arm, and then you would get power data. Which, if you're serious about training, that's a valuable tool. And I know you don't really care for it on your mountain bike, right? You wouldn't necessarily recommend a power meter on the mountain bike.
Yeah, I would not do that again. I did it because I wanted to see how that would be, and it's just not effective on the mountain bike. It's a different kind of riding. You're not putting down a consistent force, and it's not measuring any kind of effort when you're on a downhill or you're on slow speed tech, and you're exerting so much power using your whole body, and the power meter doesn't record that. It only records what's going through your legs, when you crank down. So I didn't find it very helpful for the mountain biking. Now, if you were in like XC, then yes, it would probably be very, very helpful for you, especially in a race situation. Well, but you and I don't do rest.
Or if you're doing structured workouts, like trainer road workouts on your mountain bike.
Yeah.
You would be able to like track your power, but you would probably want to keep a more consistent hill. I would think it'd be better for road biking. If you're a pro mountain bike or you're a really serious mountain bike racer on XC, I could see it I could see it coming in handy. Well,
Yeah.
price wise, would you, and go back in time, would you rather have bought a electronically controlled, really good trainer instead of the power meters?
No, I absolutely love training outside. I would not do that. Now, if I have to get a quote unquote real job soon, then maybe I would get a trainer just because, if I have to work out early in the morning or late at night, I don't want to go out on the road bike at night. Like that's not safe. And so if I were to get a job
that's very efficient use of your time. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, but no, I love training outside. As you know, we went through all the benefits in a prior pod. I'd like to know from our listeners if they use power meters, and if so, what do they use? Because if my stages goes down, I need to find a replacement. Like I know there are a few that use power meters on their pedals. That the pedal actually works as it. I know that there are both cranks. Like you can get one as a full bottom bracket. Right and left pedal. I think Quark.
The pedal one looks cool.
Yeah.
The one that is a pedal looks cool for a road bike. You wouldn't want that for a mountain bike. I feel like I'd break that pretty fast. But
no, yeah.
For a road bike, and a pedal, that seems really cool. I mean, I guess if a crank arm can work, why not a pedal? It's a shame. It's a shame seeing some of these bike companies go under. Listeners, if you have any insight in which companies are going under and that sort of thing, or any sad stories, like if someone has just bought a Kona last year and now, I'm bummed about this. I'm just kind of curious. I don't really know what's going on in the bike industry. I've watched a few videos and it's just really hard to understand exactly what's happening right now. There are some killer deals out there on, there's overstocked. Kona was doing a 2-for-1. If you bought one mountain bike, you would get one free. It was a buy one, get one at one point. Their inventory was so high. Yeah. So, I mean, there's some really, really good deals out there if you are in the market for a new mountain bike, or maybe you should be. And then on the flip side, if you're trying to sell your old bike, then the used market isn't quite as good because the new market is so enticing. But anyways,
yeah,
we'll move on from that depressing piece of business to start the pod. Thank you very much, Sage. Any other bankruptcies that you want to talk about?
Now that I brought
a car accident you saw on your way to work, is there anything maybe you want to bring up? I saw a dumpster on fire. Let's bring that up in the beginning of the pod. Get everyone all fired up. Well, our last podcast was the opposite of the way this one has started. It was very, very funny. I thought it was very funny. Number 11, which was the one that we'll be talking about today, was mountain bike doubles, skinnies, and slabs. What could go wrong? Oh, and so we got a lot of really great feedback on that. One of the things that I'm always struck by is we have a lot of people commenting and contacting us saying, hey, I'm pretty new at mountain biking, and I really appreciate you guys explaining what some of these mountain bike specific terms are. And
yes,
I'm concerned about the next generation of mountain bikers calling doubles humps because of that episode. I don't know if that would get them laughed off the mountain, or if people would just be like, ride and laugh. Yeah, we listened to that one too. That was a good episode.
T-shirt time.
Well, I pulled this guy's comments a few times, but I got to say, his comments are fantastic. Sploosh MTV, our buddy Zan. His comments are really, really spot on and really, really interesting. I noticed he comments on other YouTubers too, and great comments. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I don't know if is there a career in commenting? I mean, this guy's he's a great commenter. He talked about on jumping the doubles. He said that, I was wondering if a slacker, bigger bike would help you with jumping. And he said, no, it's actually makes it a little bit harder in those tight jumps. Maybe bike park style jumps, but in those tight, rhythm kind of jumps, the smaller bike would actually be better. And then it's all about getting good compression and popping off the jumps. And then his main tip is something that I say all the time, which is spot the landing. So you're going for it, and then you're spotting the landing, and that'll kind of arc your bike in the right direction. But if you think about it, dirt jumpers are pretty tight and narrow and upright, and those are the ones that they're doing the rhythm jumps on. So I thought that made a lot of sense.
Yeah. Zan's the man, I can't wait for you to ride with him. He's a good dude.
Yeah, well, he's got his Sploosh MTB channel, and I watch all the videos on there, and they're a lot of fun. And when he gets the jumping, like, yeah, you could see he's really comfortable in the air. He's got a lot of steves. Yeah, cool stuff. And yeah, definitely want to ride with him. So, and then on our RNL hot take video, which is on YouTube, and the one where you did this one simple thing could save your life. We got lots of listeners agreeing on that one, and that was really the tip to know where you are and have the phone number of a bike park or that sort of thing. And you talked about when I crashed at Powder Ridge and you didn't know anything, and so a lot of people, hey, that's a really good tip. Appreciating that one. Again, that's on the hot take, and so you'll get that if you're subscribed to the YouTube and you click that notification bell. Then you'll get these little hot takes that pop up. So if you're listening on the podcast and you don't get to watch on YouTube, the hot takes is a great way to see a lot of the video that Sage painstakingly goes through and puts in. Yeah, but you're the man. You're the man with the edits. Alexander said, commenting on the one simple thing could save your life, and Alexander commented, if anyone asks him why you keep riding if you crash so much, and his reply was, I never thought of it that way, and I'm not going to start thinking of it that way now. So,
darn right.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. Yeah. What's the best that can happen? We don't go
That's
into it
right.
thinking that we're going to crash. Yeah.
Yes.
And on our bike check video, which is number 6, Stefan Hansen was commenting that he's kind of new to mountain biking, and he just doesn't understand why you would need a road bike for training if you can't. Why not just use your mountain bike on the road?
Yeah.
What's your reply to that?
Well, the most obvious is you don't want to wear out your mountain bike. I mean, the mountain bike, especially a full suspension, has a ton of parts. And so if you're using that as a daily trainer, you're going to wear out a lot of those suspension parts. It's also really inefficient. You have these big tires. If you're going speed to speed, I can cover a lot more ground on my road bike and get in a shorter, tighter, more efficient workout than if I was to take out my mountain bike. And that includes the hardtail. I just can't get up to the speeds that I would normally do. So I can't get the appropriate workout. So the road bike just really lends itself much better. Not to mention, it's a lot less gear too, right? When you're gearing up for a road bike, it's a lot easier to get on your road bike and go than on a mountain bike. I suppose if you were going to do the mountain bike on the road, maybe it's not that hard. But if you were going to train on the mountain bike on a trail, then that usually means driving to a trailhead. So there's all these little things that just...
I think really it comes down to is that bikers like to buy bikes. We don't really want to...
excuse.
Yeah, we could train on the mountain bike on the road, but like if I have a good excuse to buy a new bike, even if it's a road bike, gravel bike,
Did
road
you just
bike,
say that? Who are you?
I didn't say that. I wouldn't.
Oh, okay,
obviously, I wouldn't do that. Yeah. No, I thought it was a great question. I'm like, yeah, why are you buying these dumb road bikes when you could just ride your mountain bike on the road? I've also done a lot of big rides that include road, and I don't know how much more fun road bike is on the road, where you can actually like get up to speed, and it's good at handling and nimble, and I've seen them on TV, and I've done some road rides, but a mountain bike on the road is not fun. It's just not fun.
No,
it's
it's
you're
terrible.
bouncing, it's heavy, and then
Very
the knobby tires, and so. But certainly, if you only had one bike and you wanted to buy a second set of wheels, you could do that. But now you're talking about like a rear cassette, another set of disc brakes, like the rotors. Like it's not just the wheels and good hubs. Like good wheels are expensive, and then changing them out can be a little bit of a pain. Yeah, I think it's probably just better to get a road bike. I think anyone that would try training on a mountain bike on the road would eventually get a road bike if you like it.
Yeah. I think you're making a really good point. I mean, if you just want to start your training, obviously you can do that. But I think the more serious that you get, you're either going to want another bike, and preferably a hardtail if you want to train on the trails, or you get yourself a road bike and you train on the road like I do. And that's just going to be a your call type of situation. How serious are you interested in getting into training? I don't know.
I think the gravel bike is a good compromise for the mountain biker. You know, like, and I'm kind of an anti-gravel guy. Like, I would never want to actually go for gravel rides. And we got friends. Our buddy Chris Garland does huge gravel rides, which he's got a busted elbow right now. So thank God that he can get out on his gravel bike. And I understand the allure that it's not the road. You're off road. So that, you know, it's not the danger of the cars, and maybe it's a little bit more technical. And I like the idea of being underbiked and going on trails. I think that sounds like cool. So that gives you a little bit more flexibility, but you could still take a gravel bike and do a long road ride. You could make that into a very legitimate road bike as well. So, but a road bike that you could take on trails.
Hey now,
so that sounds kind of cool. Yeah. I still don't really want one, but if someone wanted to give it to me, I probably wouldn't throw it away. All right. So on Sunday, we rode at French Creek, which is a local rocky spot with some nice elevation. And we decided to take the single speeds because somebody broke their full suspension bike. And hey, when the universe tells you to ride your hardtails, we ride hardtails. And so Sage and I decided to do a single speed ride. We used to ride this place single speed all the time. And we haven't. I don't think we've taken our single speeds back there. It's got to be 10 years. I mean, it's got to be a long time. And it was really fun. It was really fun. It was hard, and it was really fun, and it was eye opening in that how much I had to keep my eyes up. We talked about that on the single speed episode, but like, holy mackerel, the place isn't like super technical, but it's rocky all over the place. And as soon as my eyes dropped, the bike would just get overwhelmed, and I would end up running into something and having to unclip. And then laying down the power and, you know, just having that one gear. There were several times that we wanted to go faster. And there were several times that we probably could have like spun at a higher cadence, but it was fun. It was really fun. And the challenge of getting up some hills that we usually get up and through some rock gardens. And you were ripping that thing downhill. I mean, my single speed feels so small when I'm riding. It feels like a kid's bike. And it's just, I'm so used to long, full suspension bikes now. But I've gone more and more suspension. You know, I've gotten longer and longer travel on the back. So riding the hardtail was eye opening. But what did you think of the ride?
Man, the most eye opening thing for me was remembering to keep momentum. You know, that was a key because French has got some pretty big climbs in there, and there was a new trail that we weren't even ready for. I was gearing for a downhill, gearing like I had another gear, but like I was mentally gearing up for a downhill, and right at the point where we were supposed to make a turn, it just started climbing. This thing had to be like a 400 foot climb that we'd never seen before, and oh my, that hurt. But
you were not happy about that.
No, but you know what? That was a great climb though. You know, at the very top, I was like, you know what? That was pretty nice.
It was.
I think you traditionally take a while to get warmed up too, right? To a bike. You hadn't ridden that for a while, and you traditionally take a while to get warmed up on that thing. But by the end of the ride, you were crushing it, man. You were absolutely crushing it.
Yeah, it felt good. It felt good. You know, I do these squats. And obviously I use trainer road, which is a lot of cadences that I cannot reach on a single speed oftentimes. But, you know, I do strength training. And so like, that's where I kind of felt like doing the squats and lunges and things like that, where you're working on the legs. You know, at one point I was just like, the squats are coming through. You know, it's just like, you're just laying down power. You're standing up. It's just full body, just, you know, throwing your weight around on it. And we have a lot of experience on it. It's a lot of muscle memory comes back on how to make the most out of riding the single speed. And then afterwards, I had gotten my pump track tuned up, and we came back and rode the pump track.
Yes.
And we're absolutely exhausted, but that was really fun too. The pump track was running really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of single speeds, right? I mean, those are all single speed bikes, man. They're so much fun. They're so much fun.
Yeah. You got to ride my my new little BMX. It's really fun. I really like that.
I think it's a
bike.
kink, right? You got a kink?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's got pretty fat tires. Like, it's made for dirt pump tracks specifically. So it's a bigger frame, but it's still small. It's the Kink XL. I can't think of which model it is, but it's the XL size. It's like the larger one that you can get, but it's still really small. But I'm a tall, lanky dude, so but it's perfect. Yeah, it's really fun. And so Sean and Keaton, his assistant, were over and they were riding it and digging it. Also, it's good for the real because the pump track's small, it's tight, so it's good for the pump track. So what we wanted to get into this week was a topic that you had really kind of spearheaded. And you had called it the 5 most important mountain bike skills. And
yes.
I said, go ahead and email me your list, your 5. And you sent me 6. One of them was an honorable mention. And the 5 that you listed, drum roll, trail stand or track stand, Endo-turn, step up, log over, and pedal kick. And you gave an honorable mention to the half crank.
Yeah,
and I'm looking at that list, and I'm looking at the title, and I'm looking at that list, and I'm looking at the title, and the title's 5 most important mountain bike skills, and I came up with a couple others.
Okay,
I came up with brake control, manuals, cornering, body control, bunny hop, line choice. And then advanced, which I don't think is in the context of what you were talking about, but advanced would be jumps, drops, slabs, tech. Now those we can't do. The thumbnail or the title for this can't be the top 12 to 15 mountain bike skills. So we got to narrow it down.
Got to know. Yeah.
Here's what I had issue with. Okay, so I think that we should replace the log over with the bunny hop. Okay. Log overs are not everywhere. Like I have mountain bike in the Southwest. They don't have any logs. So, and I love log overs and I'm good at them.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very similar skill to the step up. Whereas but the bunny hop is kind of like a staple mountain bike skill, don't you think?
I mean, when you say bunny hop, are we going to include the J hop as well? Because or are you saying just hopping the bike?
Yeah, whatever you want to call it, the J hop, the bunny hop, but whatever your technique, getting the bike off the ground when you're riding flat.
You could combine step ups and log overs together. And we're saying log overs, but when you're in Arizona, you're right, there's no logs, but you still use that technique to get over a rock. So it would just be a rock over, not a log over, it'd be a rock over. It's the same technique of the difference between a step up and a log over is on a step up, you actually lunge forward. Right, the initial start is the same, right? So you're compressing the front, popping up, but then in a log over, you don't want to thrust your body forward because then you'll go over the bars. But on a step up, you do. You want to thrust your body forward. So that's why I had it as 2 different things because it's 2 different skills. But for the sake of the show, I guess we could combine step ups and log overs.
Listener, what do you think? Quotes. Log over and step ups, log over versus bunny hop, which is more important? How are you at log overs? I mean, Sage and I have been refining. We live in the Northeast, and so log overs are just a part of riding here. You're just doing it constantly, and I'm sure there's other parts in the world where that's the same thing. Trees fall, and a lot of times they are not moved out of the trail. And so we grew, our mountain bike growing up was one of the places we went regularly was Belmont Plateau. And when Belmont, especially when it was we single speeded there, but really early in the days, like a log fell over and it just stayed there. And it could be really, a log fell over, a tree fell over, and the log would just stay there. And some of these were humongous. And, when you're starting to do these on 26-inch wheels, but having the 27.5 or the 29-inch wheels really helps a lot. But there's definitely a technique to popping over a log that I feel is a little bit unique to anything else. That specific shape where you're getting over that really big obstacle at once.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how much you really find that in the Southwest or on technical terrain where it's that kind of shape. Because the log over, you're pulling up, you're driving your hips forward, you're getting your weight up over onto the top of the log, and then immediately dropping back down.
Right.
And there's a lot of there's a lot of technique in there, and then there's a lot of just like kind of trust that you kind of build up that you're going to be okay if you commit to this thing. You have to fully commit.
It sounds like you are agreeing that log overs and step ups are different, and they should be two different things.
I do agree that they're different. I just don't think that the log over is one of the 5 most important mountain bike skills because not everybody has logs.
I remember doing those rides in Arizona with you. And I remember distinctly at like 50 year, and what was the other one? At La Milagrosa. I distinctly remember having to use the log over. I'm throwing up air quotes. Let's just call it a rock over. There were just so many rocks where you had to employ that same technique of just popping up the rock and then immediately coming off of that, either using a pedal kick of some sort or really just committing to, diving the front end of your bike down. And I don't know, to me, whether you call it a log over or a rock over, it doesn't really matter. That to me, that technique is something that's really important. I'll tell you what's not important is the manual. You threw the manual in there. That is a unnecessarily very cool steezy move. But you do not need to. You don't need a manual to ride a mountain bike. You don't need any of these things to ride a mountain bike. But if you want to get proficient and get better, the manual is just something that looks better. I can't imagine a scenario where you're like, thank goodness I had a manual in my pocket, because if I didn't have that, I wasn't being able to do this.
Well, in the manual defense, we don't know how to manual.
That's true. That's true. Yes. Yes.
So I don't know how much we would use it. I mean, we have a lot of fun without manualing. I can get the front tire up in like for a long enough to get across like a creek crossing where you don't want to, very small creek, but you don't want to necessarily, splash through, or if you're coming up on a feature or a drop and you're at speed and you want to get that front tire up, I can get it up enough. I'm more comfortable with a pedal kick. I can't really wheelie either. I can't just like ride around the parking lot on my back wheel. But I know some really good riders that can do that. And not that I ever see them. And no one ever wheelies on the trail, but you certainly use that wheelie technique, I think, in the pedal kick, right?
No, I don't think so. And by the way, Sploosh MTB is very good at the manual and the wheelie, and he actually does it on the trail. It looks fantastic. That technique of a pedal kick, that's not debatable. I think that definitely has to be on the list, because the pedal kick has saved you and I several times. We're always doing this slow speed tech stuff.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. It really is. My goodness. And if you don't know what a pedal kick is, it's just basically where you use a half crank or a ratchet to get yourself out of a situation like a drop, and we're not, and these drops can be big. I've pedal kicked off of like 3 or 4 foot drops before that I didn't know. Oftentimes what happens is you can't tell if a rock is a roll down, or if it's a actual drop. And so you get to the edge of this thing and you're like, oh crap. If you have a pedal kick, I can't speak. If you have a pedal kick in your game, you can actually pedal kick off of this and actually land both wheels evenly on the ground. So it comes in really, really
It's also
handy.
the technique to bail off a skinny would be a pedal kick, right? If you're bailing off a skinny.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a really
you
good
need
point.
a big enough gear so
That's
that the back wheel will get engaged with only like a half a rotation, a half a crank.
Yeah.
So you're gonna picture yourself, you're doing something technical, your pedals are level, and then you're in trouble. You need a big enough gear where a half crank or maybe one rotation is enough to lift the front tire.
Yes.
And you're kind of like doing a drop that you just created wherever you are, whether it's bailing off of a skinny or of a technical, that could be a slab or any sort of feature where you just kind of need to get off of where you are in a controlled manner. And if you're going real slow and you just ride off of it, your front wheel is going to dive and you're going to endo, you're going to go over the bars.
That's right.
Whereas if you pedal kick, then you're going to kind of like propel the bike in a flat way to jump off and then land on both tires. And so, if you want to start progressing in your tech, the pedal kick is a great tool to have, and it's pretty easy to practice. You just go into big gear and just practice getting your front wheel up. I mean, it's that's why I said it's kind of like the start of a wheelie, because you're just kind of, you're not leaning back enough to do a wheelie. I shouldn't lean away from the microphone on the podcast. You're not leaning back enough to do a wheelie, but you're putting, the wheelie has power, but the manual is leaning back and finding that balance point on the back wheel. I've watched enough videos on how to do it, because any mountain biker, if you ride long enough, you're going to want to know how to manual, because you're going to see people doing it, like Sploosh MTV on the trail, and be like, that looks awesome. Chris Garland does it. You know, that looks awesome. I'd like to be able to do that. And I don't know. I mean, none of these videos have ever taught me how to do it. Have you ever gotten close to doing a good manual?
No, I was interested for a while, and I think the clips actually hurt us here. This is where having flat pedals really, really helps. Maybe. And again, I'm going to have to slightly disagree with you. With a wheelie, it really is about that balance point. With a pedal kick, you're not looking for a balance point. You're literally looking for just enough energy to lift that front tire. You're not looking for
the balance point, but when you do a wheelie, you're in the manual, you're just rolling at speed, and you lean back, or whatever the technique is, to get the front wheel up. When you do the wheelie, you're using the cranks to bring the front wheel up, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
I thought that you did. So that was why I always associated that with the pedal kick. But I'm not a wheelie guy either. So when we're talking about this, you're going to put in video of other people doing cool stuff and us just like riding both wheels on the ground.
Well,
can we losers.
Can we at least agree that we can take the manual off the top 5?
Okay. Yes. All right. Manual's out. Okay. All right. Brake control, not sexy enough.
No, it's not that it's not sexy enough. Brake control is the same thing as body position, right? It's one of those things where this is like the top 5 things that we're talking about here are like, you are already an intermediate rider, you know, like you.
So you have to define it. You have to define that. Okay. All right. So go ahead.
Right. Because
you're already an intermediate rider.
Yeah. So if you're an intermediate rider, I'm assuming that you understand how to control and modulate your brakes. I'm assuming that you know what good body position is, because those 2 things would obviously trump anything on this list. You know, those are super important. These are skills that you can add on to take your riding to the next level that will actually, they're actually moves that you actually use every day. And like, I threw an Endo-turn in there because I use the Endo-turn every ride multiple times. You know, whether I need it or not, I use it, and it is really handy. And so that's why I put it in there. But that's not a skill that I would say to a beginner, like, hey, you should learn how to Endo-turn. No, but if you're an intermediate rider, this is something you should work on.
All right. So 5 most important mountain bike skills to, what was your title?
5 most important skills to advance your riding. Ooh.
To advance your riding. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So listener, now we have this refined. 5 most important mountain bike skills to advance your riding: trail stand or track stand, Endo-turn, step up, log over, pedal kick. I would still put bunny hop over log over, I think. I feel like bunny hop should be in there.
Yeah. You know what? And again, when you say bunny hop,
maybe
we're also
over
including the
Endo-turn. Yeah, J-hop. I mean, whatever you want to call it, but
well, they're 2 different things, right? The J-hop is a completely different technique than a bunny hop.
It's a different technique, but the idea is the same. I just mean getting the bike off the ground. The J-hop is the proper way to do it. The bunny hop, you could do it the proper way, or you could be pulling up with your clips, which is the improper way if you're clipped in.
You know what? Let's remove the log over, because you can actually get over log using a bunny hop or a J hop. That trumps the log over, because that is one way that you can do it. So I will second that. Let's get rid of the log over / rock over. We'll include the bunny hop / J hop. I like that. What was the other?
Okay.
What was the other things that you had on the list?
brake control, which you took out, manual, you took out, cornering, maybe a little too nebulous. Body control.
I had a couple that I left off of mine too, and instead of cornering, I said drifting, and I left that out for a couple of reasons. First of all,
I thought about drifting too.
Yeah, first of all, I think a lot lot of trail builders would be pretty upset if we left drifting in there, because
that was the main thing.
Absolutely,
I don't want to tell anyone to like skid through turns. I hate breaking bumps, and I'm not trying to encourage anyone to do it. So it's a nice skill to have, but yeah, please don't, man. Just ride the berm the way it's supposed to.
Well, that's not drifting. Up. Yeah. If you're in a berm, that's different. I'm talking about like on the flat turns, you'll see people actually skid their tire to actually, what do they call it in racing? They on the dirt roads, you go right to go left. It's that same concept when you're drifting a bike. You know, you actually throw the bike in the opposite direction that your turn is, and then you crank the wheel. Yeah. Yes, and it's a really handy tool, but I don't know how helpful it is, and it also really does damage the trail, but it looks really cool. Cornering itself, I would throw cornering into the basic skills department. So like, again, modulating brakes, body position, cornering, you know, that's one of those things where you're working with the cones, you know, and
yeah. No, I agree. Now that we've refined it into mountain bike skills to advance your riding, then they're making certain assumptions about where your riding already is. But I think we should do a pod on cornering. I think that anyone can improve their cornering. And that's something that every ride I'm working on it and trying to get better at. And there's several different types of corners, and there's several different techniques. And I probably have a dozen tips written down that I might pull one per ride and look at it, but different little tips and things that you could tell yourself, and body position things and exercises to practice, and you know, getting your core strong. I mean, cornering is being able to go fast through corners is awesome. I mean, that's a huge part of mountain biking. So
yeah,
but I can understand it not fitting into this mountain bike skills to advance your riding. I mean, it could, but so I'm picking up more the theme that you were going for. So, all right. Well, listeners, did we miss any? Have we missed any of the most important mountain bike skills to advance your riding? What have we missed? Or of the ones that we talked about, which ones do you think should be in the top 5? Do you agree with our top 5? Our top 5 now is trail stand or track stand, Endo-turn, step up, J-hop or bunny hop, and a pedal kick. That's the top 5.
Yes. Would you throw in a half crank or ratcheting, or is that part of the beginner? Is that part of like the beginner? I don't know, man. I don't know. The half crank is
absolutely necessary. If you're single speeding, you'll figure it out. You'll just have to do it. It's really handy and tech to be able to ratchet. So that it's exactly what it sounds like. Instead of doing full pedals, maybe it's too rocky, or maybe if in the case of the single speed, it's probably too rocky and your gear is too big, so you can't actually get you're going so slow and you're going through so much tech that you can't actually get a full pedal revolution in. And so you just end up doing these half crank, and you could do 3 or 4 sometimes to just move you along. You see it with a lot of trials riders, actually, right? They'll use the half crank a lot.
Yes. Yeah. The half crank, again, maybe we take it off the list because the half crank, you use that in the step up. So you could kind of include it in the step up top 5. Here's the thing with the half crank, Danny. It's like, I've been,
and the pedal kick is kind of a half crank.
I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say. What did I say?
You said step up.
Oh my goodness. No, I meant the pedal kick. Yes.
Oh, okay.
My brain's somewhere else.
All right. I was curious about your step up technique. If you were only doing a half crank, I was like, yeah, that's a powerful crank. Look at the legs on this guy. All right. Okay.
Yeah. I've been to enough mountain bike skills clinics to know that they don't teach the half crank or ratchet. That's not
How many
something
mountain
they
bike
do.
skills clinics have you been to? I think you've been to no mountain bike skills clinics.
I've been to, no. I've been to at least 3 or 4. And
in all the years I've known you, I've never heard of you going to a mountain bike skills clinic.
Yeah, I volunteered for 2 at when Pimba was a thing. I volunteered to help with the Pimba. They used to do skills
so you're
clinics.
An instructor. You're not going to the clinic. You're teaching the clinic.
I wasn't qualified enough to be an instructor. They just needed helping hands from good riders, and at that time I was a pretty good rider. Okay. So I did a few for Pimba. I've done one for Bamba. We used to do the kids rides at Bamba, and they would have like skills clinics for that as well. So I've done quite a few, and they work on brake modulation. They work on core and balance. They work on cornering, but ratcheting or half cranking is not something that any of them.
That's really beginner stuff that you're at. I mean, you're going to stuff for your kids. That was for your kids, basically. You weren't volunteering your time to just be there.
The Pimba ones had a bunch of adults, but I see your point. My only point is there's
like very legitimate mountain bike skills clinics out there where they're teaching like advanced level skills. This is not
for sure
what you were at. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's not where I was at.
I went to one of those.
Yes.
And they didn't teach a half
crank. That's right. You did do that though. What was that? That was what was the name of that?
Dirt Smart, I think, is Andy at Dirt Smart. He's a Colorado-based pro mountain biker or former pro. And it was a weekend clinic. Curtis told me about it. And Kyle and I went. And then Matt also went after I told him about it. And dude was like one of the best riders I've ever been around. I mean, just following him was an education. And we did it in the Chamonix. And he taught some really cool things. He taught the proper way to J-hop. We did drills in the parking lot on cornering and bike body separation. And it did make me a better rider. It did make me a better rider. Really, really cool dude. At the time, I was crashing a lot. And I guess that hasn't really changed all that much, but now I crash and I know why. Back then I didn't understand why I was crashing. So he really educated me on what I'm doing wrong. And now I'm like, thanks, Andy. And now I know why I did that. But I was crashing too much. I was just out of control. Like downhills were just out of control. If I wanted to go fast, it was just letting off the brakes more. I didn't have any concept of body position and eyes up and he put a lot of fundamentals in. And I think he still teaches, and he teaches all different levels, and he travels around the country teaching. So I believe it's Dirt Smart. If it's not, then we'll put it in the show notes. But anyone that's interested in skills, I totally recommend it. It was really cool. I'd love to get to one of Lee McCormack's. Lee likes bikes. Lee McCormack, he does bike skills, and usually they're, I think, out mostly in the Midwest or West Coast, a lot of Colorado. But that's something I totally got to get to one of those, because he like literally wrote the book on mountain bike skills, and of course the Ripro, which I've talked about a number of times. He invented that, and Lee's an awesome dude, an awesome instructor, and his book is something I pick up all the time. So I look at those things all the time, and I'm interested in mountain bike skills, and I don't think the half crank is something that people talk about all that much. So you're onto something there, that it's not talked about enough. I don't know how key it is. I mean, we're doing the top 5, and then you're trying to throw in an honorable mention, but that's really just number 6. Yeah. And 6 doesn't have the same ring. Everyone knows you want like top 3 or top 5. You don't want top 6. Nobody does top 6, right? No,
you need another hand. You got to do another hand. It's terrible. It's top 5. Yeah. You don't want to be like,
right. Yeah. And a thumb over here,
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody wants to be the thumb. This is the little half crank over here, that's
the half crank. Not appealing. Is the thumb. That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we are going to have to get into, all right. So we need listener feedback on our top 5. Top 5 most important mountain bike skills to advance your riding. We have the trail stand or the track stand, which we haven't talked about at all. We have the Endo-turn, which we've talked about in previous pods, but not really much today. The step up, which is getting up onto a ledge from a flat area. And so that can be anything from a foot to 6 or 7 feet. I mean, we've seen people do crazy step ups, right?
Yeah.
It's an awesome
Steve Bungold,
technique,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And well, Jeff Lenoski, if you watch the Trail Boss videos, like, you know, the things that guy can get up, it's just, it's awesome. It's awesome. And you and I are pretty good at step ups. We get up on some, for like, you know, regular non-pro riders, like, yeah, we're pretty good at getting up on top of stuff. I think that does tie in with the log over skill that we're not going to put into the top 5 because we're going to put in the J hop.
Yep.
And then the pedal kick. But there's lots of other skills. So listeners, let us know what you think about our top 5. We're going to do more pods on the top 5, breaking them down. Which ones are you most interested in talking about, learning about? And certainly interested, who knows how to manual? Who has tips on manuals? Do we really want to ask for tips? I don't know. There's so many videos out there on how to manual. And it's probably just a matter of practice and understanding the technique. But is a manual, if you know how to manual, is it something that's important on the trail? How often do you use it? The manual or the wheelie skill? So listener, if you let us know your thoughts on that as well. And you can do that in the YouTube comments or rideandlaugh1@gmail.com. Go ahead, Seiji.
Yeah. You know, before we get into the gratitudes, the other thing is if our listeners want to know more information about one of those certain skills, you know, like, hey, could you talk more about a step up or the track stand or whatever? Let us know that as well.
Yeah.
Like we employ all of these things. Every ride we have done at least one of these things multiple times, you know? So yeah, I wouldn't call us experts, but we could certainly talk at length on any one of those. So yeah, if you want to know,
I think we should. I think we should get into maybe the actual nuts and bolts. So we just debated the top 5 here, but I think we should get into the nuts and bolts of each one of these, the basic technique, something that I think it's cool if you're listening to a podcast and then you actually have something you could take with you on the next ride to use. So I hope that what everyone is always taking from Ride and Laugh podcast is that mountain biking is fun, being stoked is fun, and that anything is possible. And we're all amazing people and we're all amazing beings. And if we visualize something on the trail, that we can make it happen. We talk about that all the time. So any of these skills that if you're starting out, or even if you've been riding for a while and you're not good at one of these things, manuals, maybe I should visualize manuals. I probably don't want it enough, or I would be visualizing how to do it, you know? So
yeah,
I have to start writing it in my gratitude journal, but I write in my journal about just like being centered. I'm a good mountain biker. I'm a pro level mountain biker. I write these things down. I'm centered over my pedals. I have my eyes up. I'm comfortable in the air. I've taken some of the tips that we've heard from our listeners since we started doing the podcast. I have good instincts in the air, and I'm comfortable on drops, and I hit tech at perfect speed, and I'm centered and I'm balanced. And then you visualize those things, you feel those things, you repeat them, you believe it, you become it. And then you can take those things to your life too. You know, being centered on your bike, being centered in life, keeping your eyes up. Mountain biking is awesome. And there's a reason that we're passionate about it is because it resonates with our soul. So there's a real power in that. So we may not give mountain bike skills or tips every podcast, but I hope that everyone walks away every podcast with a smile and a little bit more confidence that things are working out for me. Life's pretty good. You know, I got a mountain bike in my garage. I'm going for a ride soon. Life's pretty good. So, yeah. So I think that's a good way to head into our mountain bike gratitudes.
Yes.
With a good positive energy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do you got this week on your mountain bike gratitude list?
Oh man, Danny, you know what? Let's go back to what we started the podcast with, which is the news about the stages. You know, I am so grateful for that power meter, for all the reasons that we just described. But man, that thing, as you know, Danny, I train all 4 seasons. Like there's not an off season for me. I'm out there when it's icy cold to, you know, ridiculously hot to in the rain. That power meter, it's never broken. I've knocked the battery door off once and they had to resend the battery door. But outside of that, it's been amazing. And if you're worrying about durability, I've got that on the mountain bike. It's still working. And I just recently broke my mountain bike. I put that thing through hell, and those power meters are unbelievable. So thank you, Stages Cycling. I hope that it is able to continue in some form or fashion, because I just think they're a great company. Their customer service was fantastic, by the way. When I emailed them about the battery door, not only did they send me one battery door, they sent me a second one and a spare rubber ring. So I was like, wow, what a great company. And this is before I had a YouTube channel, by the way. I had no weight. You know, they were just like, yeah, here you go.
Yeah. I hope that I hope all these companies, especially all the people that work there, you know, I mean, I hope everyone lands on their feet and finds good opportunity and thrives and finds other things to be passionate about. And maybe these companies can keep going in some way, shape, or form. You know, in a slimmed down version. It does happen. Just filing for bankruptcy doesn't mean it has to be the end. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. And but you know, Sage did ask, you know, anyone has any other good ideas for power meters? Should he need to get a new one? You know, who's used that pedal one, and you know, what do you recommend? And then I think you have to look at the cost of it, and then look at the cost of it versus the cost of having an indoor trainer and the efficiency of the indoor trainer. I know you like training outdoors, but there's some interesting math to be done there. Of course, you have to pay for Trainer Road or Zwift. You do have to pay for one of those programs as well.
Yeah.
So, and I know you outdoor guys, like you get pretty attached to it, and there's a bravado there also of just like, you know, no, I go outdoors, I go outside, you know, like and I understand that. That's cool. That's tough. It is tough training in all that weather. You got fenders, you got all the gear. Like you're ready for the outdoor training. There's also cars out there. This is a different podcast, but how close have you been to getting hit by a car ever? We're doing gratitude.
All the time.
This is a bad question.
That's why my mountain bike skills are so good. You know, I'm just like constantly avoiding cars and like
he's jay hopping over tractor trailers, ladies and gentlemen. Did you see that guy just pedal kick off that Winnebago? That was awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, my gratitude of the week is going to be something that we touched on last week, and then we already talked about it earlier in this pod, and that's my backyard pump track. So last week I started riding it a little bit, but Sean came and tuned it up, and on Sunday, Sean and his assistant Keaton. And so then we rode it on Sunday, and since then I've ridden it every morning. I've gotten up and put on my flats, and the sun's just coming up, and I'm out there ripping laps on my backyard pump track. And, you know, it's like 10 to 20 minutes. Like really at 20 minutes, I'm exhausted. So it's more like 10 to 15 minutes. And then I'm working out afterwards. So I'm hopping on the trainer or doing my regular workout. It's just kind of like an added thing. And right now it's cool in the morning and it's really hot in the afternoon. And so I'm doing it in the morning, but it's awesome. It's awesome having a pump track in your backyard. Like I'm so grateful. And I have to throw my wife in there because she finally allowed me to build it. And she's so supportive. So my wife, Lauren, thank you so much for allowing the backyard pump track. I know it's not necessarily the most beautiful thing to look at. For me, it is. When I see it, I'm just like, oh my God, there's a pump track in the backyard. I don't know what other people think when they come over, but I also don't really care. But so yeah, thank you, Lauren. I have the coolest wife. She's awesome. And thank you, Sean. And Sticks and Stones Trail Co. Look him up on Instagram, Sticks and Stones Trail Co. He will build you a backyard pump track. It's cheaper than you think. Watch Trail Sage's video on the backyard pump track. Sean should probably charge more. It's a lot of work, and they're awesome. Yeah. But you could put one in your backyard and still have a backyard. It doesn't take up the whole thing. Like we replaced our swing set with it, and it's so much better than a swing set. It's so fun.
Yeah,
and you learn so much on a pump track. That's another episode to talk about the benefits of pump tracks. But there's so much that you learn body positioning wise and getting your hips around, and then that motion, that pumping motion. And then we have video of Sean's awesome on the pump track. And then Keaton, who's 18, he's just incredible. You know, he has like BMX skills. So he was throwing 180s in and just really understands how to boost at like no speed. I can barely get any air Since you recorded me on Sunday, I've gotten like maybe another inch or two. So I feel like you should come back because now I'm really flying.
Hey now.
I mean, I'm not pedal kicking off a Winnebago yet or anything like that, but
Whoa, yeah.
you know, it's just this motion of driving your hands and the handlebars to your hips and getting that bike up in the air, and it's so cool. But having the pump track is awesome, and then Sean also he builds at local communities. So yeah, it's worth looking into. I don't know if you're in the Pennsylvania area. Sean will travel. He'll do New York, Pennsylvania, DC, Delaware. I mean, he would travel a little bit. But if you're somewhere else and you're interested in the backyard pump track, you gotta look into it because it's awesome and it's fun. Or if you have a local pump track, or just get involved, get your community to get a pump track. Do you have a local pump track? You know, we're starting to see them pop up more and more in different parts of the United States. They're much more common, I feel like, out west than they are here. Most people here don't know what they are. When I tell them I have a pump track in the backyard, people don't really know what that is. But we got to change that. You know, pump tracks in every town, just like a basketball court or tennis court. It should be a local pump track.
Yes, we're going to change it one hump at a time.
Yes. Oh, a hump track. Maybe that would take off more. Maybe that would be more popular.
A hump track. Hump track. That sounds like some kind of like music something, you know?
Yeah, it does sound like music you would put on the hump to. Exactly what it sounds like. So when I put music on for the pump track, and
it's a hump track.
I don't think that's music. It's pump music. It's not hump music. Yeah. They're two different things. One's like more kind of like Al Green and, you know, a little bit more chill. I guess it depends on who you're humping too.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, what you're humping.
Yeah. Well, listen, before you get into trouble, let me get into the mountain bike tip.
Too late.
And yes, we had mentioned track stands or trail stands, and we did not talk about any of the details that go behind it. So my mountain bike tip, and listen, there are a lot of tips that we can give you on doing a trail stand, but the easiest one is if you are struggling with a trail stand, focus on something far away. Just pick like, you know, something that's like 10 or 15 feet away. It could even be a blade of grass. It doesn't matter. Focus yourself on that one thing. You know, if you're outside, an easy one is like a tree or a lamp or a bench, anything, and just focus on that. All of a sudden, you will be able to balance that bike a lot easier. If you're looking down at your front tire, it's not going to happen for you. But if you focus on something that's 10, 15, 20 feet away, it'll make a huge difference. So that's my mountain bike.
What do you think
tip.
the reasoning? What is the reasoning behind that? Do you have any idea?
It has something to do, and I learned this trick when I was stretching actually in soccer, and they would have us do the flamingo, you know, where you pull up your thigh, you know, you pull up your leg, you know, so you stretch out your thigh muscle, and everyone's falling over, and the coach was like, pick a blade of grass and stare at it. And what it does is it occupies your mind, and all of a sudden all your focus, instead of focusing on the pain in your leg and trying to balance, your brain like, oh, I have to focus and look at this blade of grass. And your body just naturally does what it has to do. It wants to stay up. Your body doesn't want to fall over. It knows how to stay balanced. So if you stop thinking about it and just let your body do it, it will do it. So get your mind off of trying to balance and focus on something else. It will really work. It is an amazing trick.
Oh, okay. That's cool. And just real fast though, a track stand or a trail stand is being completely still and keeping the bike upright while your feet are still on the pedals. So naturally,
you don't have to be. Yeah, you don't have to be completely still. Well, you can rock back and forth. In fact, you're not moving forward, right? You can rock back and forth. In fact, that's another tip. I don't want to give up too much, but like that is another tip that you would employ is you would rock back and forth.
All right, people, you're getting 2 tips here.
You got
There's
2 tips.
Tip next week. We got 2 tips, so write them down. All right, well, that's a great tip. We will get more into the technique and why you would want to use trail stands and where you use them and how handy they come in and more tips on how to practice them. We will get into that on future episodes. Let us know which of the 5 mountain bike skills to advance your riding you agree with. Let us know if there's other skills. Let us know which ones you want us to center on and talk about some more and get into some more detail. And we can practice and we can manifest and we can visualize and we can get better at all of these. So let's do that together. That'll be fun. If you're still listening, you are definitely one of us. You are a mountain biker. You love riding and talking about bikes. Thank you for listening. Please rate and subscribe on YouTube. Hit the notification bell. You'll get the hot takes. And rate and subscribe. Give us 5 stars on whatever podcast player you're using. It really helps the algorithm. We very much appreciate your time. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you commenting. Have a great week, everybody. Ride and laugh.
I'll see everyone.